Support for Just Seen It comes from Warner Archive Instant. Streaming hard-to-find movies and TV shows direct from the studio at WarnerArchiveInstant.com. On this episode of Just Seen It, we review the sci-fi space odyssey, Europa Report.
Guys, we got a problem. I got hydrazine on my suit.
In the vein of 2001 and 2010, we revisit the moons of Jupiter in Europa Report.
The coming-of-age comedy, The To-Do List.
There are things on this list that I haven't even done, Brandy.
You know your film is in trouble when it's a female teen sex comedy and the best elements are Bill Hader and Johnny Simmons.
The newest drama from Netflix, Orange is the New Black.
I read that you're not supposed to ask that.
You read that?
Though the main character is a bit vapid, the supporting cast is amazing enough to keep you coming back for more.
And we offer you our tribute to Siskel and Ebert.
I liked it. Wow, where's your big red suit and beard, Santa? You just gave them a gift.
My pick from Gene Siskel's list, of course, is Dr. Strangelove.
All right here on Just Seen It. A crew of astronauts travel to Jupiter's icy moon. But as they seek signs of life, something goes very wrong. Their mission becomes a battle for their lives in Europa Report.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
I'm Scott. And I'm Sean, and we're here to grade the new sci-fi film Europa Report. We've all just seen it. It'll be like our Europa Report card.
Ooh, good one, Sean.
Who wants to start?
Europa Report is an instant sci-fi classic. It is a brilliant film, awe-inspiring, breathtaking, beautiful, gripping, intense, and challenging that stands alongside sci-fi classics like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars, Blade Runner. The Matrix is one of the best sci-fi movies ever made.
I liked it. I did like it a lot, but I did feel it was a little reductive of other films. I mean, nothing that happened totally surprised me. The screenwriter Philip Gillot worked with NASA. He was inspired by the fact that we discovered lake beds on Europa, and thus, his idea was born. And I think that's really interesting, and he used real science. And that is what I really like about the movie, and I do like this movie. I just don't think it's that surprising.
I'm more with Kevin. I liked it. I thought it was a good genre entry. This is really a found footage film. And I'm never really on board with found footage films. I always call into question exactly why we're viewing what we're viewing at a certain time. And there are elements of this film that don't work like other found footage films do. We've got cameras that are placed just about everywhere. It seems like all the budget of this film was spent on cameras because they're conveniently placed wherever you want to see action, it's there. But cinematically, it uses those elements to its advantage. It's a very suspenseful picture. It does bring up a lot of interesting scientific issues.
Never before have I seen a movie that depicts deep space travel as plausible and as believable as this movie. The movie's told in a non-linear structure because you're using found footage while scientists on Earth, played by Emmett Davids and Dan Fogler, are recounting the mission with a mixture of pride and bittersweet regret because of what eventually happens.
The cast helps add to the realism of this picture. We have some newcomers that we've never seen before and a couple of familiar faces. Michael Nyqvist, who was in the Millennium series in Sweden, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and its sequels, and Sharlto Copley, who was in District 9 and the A-Team film.
Yes, the cast is an uncomplicated international cast, works more as an ensemble, which is really nice to see.
You have one astronaut, Sharlto Copley, who's out in space, but every day all he's doing is thinking about when he's going to get home to see his family. Right. Then you have Carolina Wydra, who is so inspired and so driven by the potential for discovery of life beyond the Earth in our solar system that she loses sight of the dangers that go along with space travel. Then Michael Nyqvist, he's the space vet. He logged hundreds of hours in space, and he's the most emotionally detached of the bunch, which is an interesting, ironic twist on the cast. But collectively, they embody the whole human experience of what space travel is.
James, listen to me. His oxygen level is redlining.
Get him back inside the ship.
Okay. I'm coming in.
Stop. Don't go in. Something on your suit. It's hydrazine.
Guys, we got a problem. I got hydrazine on my suit.
That being said, it is not really a performance-driven picture.
Right.
It's about the mission. It's about sort of this found footage aspect. And yes, the actors are just professional enough that they fill these roles quite nicely, but it's not an actor's movie per se.
Film was directed by Sebastian Cordero, an Ecuadorian filmmaker. I think he puts so much unbearable tension in here that even just watching it at home on demand, I felt the tension, and you know, if something takes place in space or underwater, I don't breathe for like the hour and a half that it's on.
And the film acknowledges its predecessors. I mean, 2010 and 2001 have gone over this idea that there could be life on Europa. We've thought that for a long time because of the icy surface.
Eugenio Caballero did the production design, and it was so detailed that I actually sat there just kind of marveling at little things that they did, and I don't even understand how you figure out what's supposed to go where on a space station.
This is obviously a low-budget film, but it just looks so top dollar.
There's going to be a segment of the audience that's going to be disappointed because there is no big, like, reveal at the end.
Well, there is.
There is and there isn't, because when I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I expected. They've kind of shown it already, so...
But it doesn't have a Hollywood ending.
No, and I appreciated that, but I do think there is an audience that's going to go, at the end.
I mean, it's not a horror film.
Right.
Which I'm wondering if people will go into it thinking that it is.
Right.
It's not. It's a sci-fi movie that explores the idea of extraterrestrial life. Europa Report isn't a perfect sci-fi vehicle, but it's suspenseful enough to please fans of the genre. See it.
Audiences looking for a monster alien hybrid movie are going to be disappointed, but science fiction fans and open-minded audiences, I think, are really going to love it because it's super suspenseful. So I say see it.
Europa Report is an instant sci-fi classic, trailblazing and breathtaking. See it. Yeah.
Cheers.
Bring on Chevy Chase.
Good thing we got Europa into seeing that one, right?
Brandy is an unpopular high school overachiever.
Please welcome to the stage president of Mathletes, as well as their own self-published magazine, Women with a Y.
When she falls for Rusty, she realizes she's not ready for college. So she decides to lose her innocence and a whole lot more.
I want to put your top back on.
Oh my God!
In the to-do list.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Hi, I'm Cecily.
And I'm Leah, and today we're going to talk about The To-Do List, the new film from Maggie Carey. We've all just seen it.
I'd like to welcome Cecily Nobler. She's a new guest reviewer from the BFCA. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I review for radio on a show called Live from Hollywood Radio, and I like long walks on the beach. I'm kidding. I don't.
Why did you start us off, Aaron?
It was written and directed by Maggie Carey. She is the wife of Bill Hader, a comedian who is also in this film. This is Maggie Carey's first major motion picture, both as a writer and a director. She's worked on Funny or Die sketches before this. The fundamental problem with this film is that even though it's funny and there are sex jokes, it's the same kinds of sex jokes over and over again. Our lead character is so unsympathetic because she has no reason for wanting to do all these sexual acts.
We've got female, teenage, adolescent sexuality here. And it's a new look. It's something that we don't get to spend a whole lot of time doing. We see females being raunchy. We saw a little bit of that in Pitch Perfect. We see a whole lot of that in Bridesmaids. And so we know that it can happen and it can be humorous. The problem here is the lack of craftsmanship around the humor, the plot, the characters.
Right, and I would add that there's no characters, or at least for me, I couldn't relate to anything. There was no sensitivity. It just, there was something that just seemed so unrealistic.
The things that you laughed at, I get it's an R-rated comedy, and so there's a lot of raunch here, but there's raunch and no irony. Right. There's no critique. So you almost kind of wonder, well, what's the purpose? And at that point, it becomes, when there's no purpose, it becomes titillation, exploitation, and dare I say, even softcore porn.
I like raunch. I'm a fan of it if it's done fun, if it's funny, if it's
or smart.
I don't.
It was funny. It was just absurdly vulgar.
I like absurd too.
Yeah, I mean, it was just way too over
here's
the
the
top.
problem. She has all of these individual tasks in which she pursues. She wants to do something with her hand. She wants to do something with her mouth. She wants to do somebody else to do something with their mouth. Okay, so these are all these things, but they're isolated incidents. There's no connective tissue. There's no build. There's no
It's just
reason
the same thing
they.
over and over again. It's
the
just a
same
different
thing
act.
over, and consequently, the story doesn't really build, and which is a problem because
Doesn't
there's
come
no.
to a climax.
It doesn't come
I knew
to
that
a
was-
climax,
wow.
which is a problem when you're talking about the
No,
plot.
it is. Even though there are a lot of funny jokes in this film that I laughed at, the main issue with it is that you just don't care about anybody. Take Superbad, for example. That's a raunchy teen sex comedy. When something bad happens to Jonah Hill's character, you care about him. Even though he's a jerk and you're laughing at him, you have an emotional connection to him. Here, none of that. And our lead actress, Aubrey Plaza, who plays this character of Brandy, does her deadpan shtick that works really well in Parks and Recreation, but here it's too straight. It doesn't fit in the context of this film, and it feels like she's trying too hard.
Definitely
half the time.
trying to. Yeah, I have to say, I thought she was really one note, and I had a really tough time getting past the fact that she's almost 30.
She's like 30,
She's
yeah.
30. I mean, at what point can we stop casting 30-year-olds as 17-year-olds? There are so many actors and actresses out there that could have done this role, that could have, well, nobody should have done this role, to be honest. It's no reflection on her, but I just didn't get that at all.
You know, and I couldn't tell if it was the writing or if it was the performance. But some of the other characters, they were also just a little off. Rachel Bilson as
playing
her
her sister.
We had Connie Britton and Clark Gregg playing her parents.
I love Connie Britton. She's one of my when I saw that she was in this, everybody, a lot of the cast actually, I thought elevated could have elevated what the script was, but I thought Connie seemed lost. I felt like with a lot of the cast, Donald Glover, just even a few people who had just a couple lines.
I like Donald Glover.
I love Donald Glover, but
Yeah.
I thought
I think he was good in this.
But I'm thinking, who do they owe a favor to?
yeah.
That's what I was the whole time.
There's somebody endearing. I mean, Johnny Simmons, who plays Cameron, the guy who wants to be her beau, he's endearing, and if there's anybody that I care about, it's him, because he's heartfelt. Maggie Carey as a director, it's her first time. I don't think she really adds anything visually unique to the film. They have these moments where they have freeze frames and they have these little graphics come on, similar to what happened in 21 Jump Street, but that's really it. If they had something visually unique more than just these one or two things, it really would have elevated the film, made it a little better.
Where it really seems to fall down is in her work with the actors. There's not a whole lot of subtlety or nuance or shading here. Everybody seems to be on one note, and many of them are cranked up to 11, and they don't really ever come down from there.
While I did laugh a lot at this movie, there are better sex comedies out there, and even for the demographic, it's not really worth your time, so I say skip it.
I found it ridiculously raunchy, cringe-worthy at times, just way more hack than humor. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Skip it.
While the film is not a total loss, there is no need to put the to-do lists at the top of your screening list. Stream it.
Our votes add up to 1/2 of a ticket, which is a skip it, for the to-do list. Cheers.
Cheers.
With the upcoming release of the next in the X-Men franchise, The Wolverine, we'd like to suggest for our DVD pick, X-Men First Class.
You ready for this? Let's find out. Listen to me very carefully, my friend. Killing will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
Released in 2011, this Genesis story tells us of how the X-Men came to be. Set in 1962 at the height of the Cold War, the story gives us an interesting rewrite of history and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there you have it, a great summer action thriller for your home theater entertainment. Enjoy.
Viper is arrested for possessing a suitcase full of drug money that isn't hers.
What on earth did you do with the money?
Well, grandmother, I wasn't really in it for the money.
Do you know about all this?
No. No, I didn't.
Sentenced to 15 months, the world as she knows it quickly ends. Piper must adapt to prison life to survive in Orange is the New Black.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Hi, I'm Salim.
And I'm Leah, and today we're here to discuss Orange is the New Black, the new Netflix series based on Piper Kerman's memoir, where she spent 15 months in federal prison for a drug-related charge. We've all just seen it. What do we think?
It's executive produced by Jenji Cohen, who was the showrunner for Weeds, which was a Showtime show about a suburban mom selling pot to her neighborhood. And there are a lot of similarities to how the show feels. Sometimes you are in amazement at how shocking and terrifying something is, and then the next moment you're laughing at how ridiculous something is.
Really, the point of the show is about Piper's arc, because as the title suggests, she's this vacuous person from a privileged upbringing. And it's really about how she goes from being this empty person to being filled with a personality of sorts.
Presumably.
Well, see, it's interesting that you would say that that's the whole purpose of the show, and I think that you're right, which is to show this idealized, middle-class, privileged, entitled white woman who's quite wafy and attractive and who's got her whole life set up for her and ahead of her, and now she's got to go to prison, and now she's got to deal with the common folk.
Yeah, she mentions that all the time. My life was perfect before I got sent to prison and all this stuff.
Well, that's a problem, though. They hint at and they point at how unfair mandatory minimum sentencing is. It's really kind of ridiculous, failed policy. But wow, gee, we're really only concerned about it when it affects a middle-class, privileged white woman.
I think they set up these characters on purpose based off of your own inclinations of what people in prison are like, but also based off of Piper's inclinations of what these people in prison are like.
And she's kind of a cipher. She's empty. There's nothing there, so that when she gets to prison, everybody else around her is far more interesting than she is.
The prison life itself is just a little too ridiculous for the sake of being a dramatic show.
You leave Litchfield as a skeleton in a body bag. Pow!
I find a lot of the writing to be very good and very solid, but I also find a lot of the construction of the show, the writing and the way it's put together, to be gimmicky.
Yeah.
Look at you, Blondie. What'd you do?
Aren't you not supposed to ask that question? I read that you're not supposed to ask that.
You read that? Well, you studied for prison?
Our lead is Piper Chapman, played by Taylor Schilling, and we also have Jason Biggs playing Larry, her fiancé. In addition, we have Natasha Lyonne playing a prison inmate. There's a very large supporting cast. The standout for me is Laverne Cox, who is a transgendered actress playing a transgendered woman in this prison. We get her story in the third episode, and it's pretty much what kept me interested in the show.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that by the third episode, that's the best part of the show because it's really unique. We don't really get a lot of stories about transgendered people. And
Not on television.
Exactly, on television especially, but all the problems that they have to go through, and especially the relationships that they have and how strained those get.
Yeah.
You need some of these. I made my own. Couture. Compensator and carry size 13.
Is that duct tape?
Metallics are very in this season.
So the pilot was directed by Liz Friedman. She is a veteran behind the camera for television. She worked on House for many, many episodes, and she's done a lot of other television, and she does solid work here. And
all the directors do.
And then they rotate.
Yeah.
They go through several different directors, guest
It doesn't
directors.
feel like different directors, and I think that's always
important.
it's a very important part of any television show.
With Jenji Cohen behind creating the vision, and it's a very, very strong, very clear vision that a lot of talented directors get to come in and put their fingerprints on.
Yeah, it's well made, it's well shot. From a visceral standpoint, I feel like I'm there, you know, everything makes sense, the layouts make sense, the kind of stuff that they have to wear and buy and all the activities, all that stuff works. So it's immersive. The script and the story are a little more important than directorial flourishes.
9.5, right? 10. Did your feet swell when you went back to boys?
So there's a stylistic choice here. There's flashbacks, which is a bit cumbersome when you focus on Piper because her story is not that interesting. However, we also have flashbacks for the supportive other inmates that are in there, and that's really the best part of the show. Like you said, Laverne Cox's story is probably the most interesting and the most heartfelt.
Orange is the New Black isn't the easiest show to get into, but there are enough redeemable qualities to recommend it to other people, so I say see it.
Its race and class politics aside, Orange is the New Black is entertaining enough with some solid writing, but it doesn't really stick to your ribs, you know, like a shiv. So stream it.
The show does have issues, and it does start out very rocky, but it's an interesting look at a women's prison with a surprising amount of heart. See it.
So our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Orange is the New Black.
All right,
Cheers.
guys.
Cheers.
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert were two of America's greatest film critics. In this special tribute to them, we honor their memory with a review of their favorite movies.
Hi, I'm Leah.
I'm Sean.
And I'm David. And as we all know, we recently lost an individual who's a cornerstone of film criticism and a personal hero of mine, Roger Ebert. And along with his reviewing partner, Gene Siskel, they were on the air for almost 20 years. So in honor of their memory, today, we're going to talk about some of their favorite films.
I have to say, as a little girl growing up in Chicago, it was my pleasure to sit down every Sunday night and watch Siskel and Ebert rant and rave and box and yell and scream at each other about films. These guys were able to make analyzing and looking at films understandable.
Right.
They made it enjoyable and they made it entertaining. And they set the tone and the bar for all other popular film criticism.
When I was young, they were already famous and had already been on TV for several years. But I sort of remember just sort of seeing them on TV and how famous they were and thinking, well, that has to be some kind of standard. And if I want to see a movie, who are you going to look for to tell you how good it is or how bad it is? And it's those guys. And even today, if I see a movie from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, I want to go back and see exactly what it is that they thought about it and see if I agree with them or not. And when I disagree with them, I was always going, what did I do wrong?
Right, you're like, you feel dirty, right?
What's wrong with me?
I'm not smart enough.
So for today, we looked at the list made by Gene Siskel and the list made by Roger Ebert of what they consider the greatest films of all time. I have to come up with 2, right? It's impossible to come up with 10 films, let
they're
alone
all
2.
amazing. Yeah, how do you pick?
So I just said I'll pick the earliest one and I'll pick the newest one. And it's a Buster Keaton film called The General. It's a terrific testament to how great silent cinema can be. And Buster Keaton himself was one heck of a performer, and his stunts are just amazing. And
yeah, you couldn't get away with that today.
No way.
They were like, okay, now let's bring in the stunt guy. Okay?
SAG would say, I don't think so.
It's not gonna
Not
fly.
happening.
No.
Buster Keaton thought it was his best film. Orson Welles at one point said it was the greatest comedy ever. So
Really?
those accolades are pretty good.
And that's a film that actually still holds up, nearly 100 years later.
And the newest film on the list is from Roger Ebert, and that's The Tree of Life, directed by Terrence Malick, which came out in 2011. So Ebert basically said he wanted to pick a new film, and he said this was his propaganda pick, meaning he wanted to call attention to it by putting it on his list. So he's going out on a limb. It's a bold choice to pick a film like this from 2011, but I think it's a terrific pick in a way because this is the film I think in 30 years will be declared a masterpiece and probably the best film of this decade, and it's only 2013 when I say that.
Someday we'll fall down and weep, and we'll understand it all. All things.
For Gene Siskel, I picked Shoah, which is Claude Lanzmann's 9.5-hour documentary epic about the Nazi Holocaust. It is incredibly intense in that there's no archival footage in this film. It is all interviews. Concentration camp survivors, Nazi military, bystanders, which is really kind of powerful. These are people who lived downwind of crematoriums and never did anything.
One thing that's interesting, though, is it topped Siskel's top 10 list in 1985, but Roger Ebert didn't put it on his top 10 list. He actually said he felt it was somewhat unfair to put it on there because you couldn't compare other films against it.
That's true.
So that tells you something about, a 9.5-hour documentary.
And then my next pick, which was on Roger Ebert's list, was Tokyo Story, which is Yasujiro's 1953 classic film. Ozu is considered one of the top 3 best Japanese filmmakers of all time. He's right there with Kurosawa and Mizoguchi. This is a film about an old couple who travels from their provincial village to Tokyo to visit their adult children. And nobody has time for them. There's this tension that's always boiling under the surface of this film, and it's just beautiful, and no aspiring filmmaker should go without seeing Tokyo Story.
My 2 picks are movies that I would have never gone to see on my own. And the first one from Roger Ebert's list is Raging Bull. And Raging Bull, a movie about a boxer, I had no desire to go see a movie about a boxer, but a friend of mine dragged me to the movie, And it's not really about boxing. It's about a man with a lot of demons who turns those demons into success in the ring, but also shows us his failures. The boxing scenes are amazing. They're more like choreography until the punches landed. It felt like you were in the ring and you were getting hit in the face. The boxing scenes were so realistic that Robert De Niro actually broke Joe Pesci's rib. And you can actually hear him going, oomph. Pretty cool. Yeah, I bet you guys didn't know that.
Did not know that.
My pick from Gene Siskel's list, of course, is Dr. Strangelove.
Or
How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This movie stood the test of time. It's very much applicable to the world we're in today, unfortunately. And of course, Stanley Kubrick was really taken to task on this movie because he wanted it in black and white, and the studio was like saying, no, all of our statistics say that movies in color make money. Right. It has an amazing cast led by Peter Sellers, who plays 3 roles. He plays the president and a British commander who's trying to stop a nuclear holocaust. And of course, he plays Dr. Strangelove. Now, what's fascinating is that he was also supposed to play the captain of the bomber's role, who was played by Slim Pickens, but he couldn't master a Southern accent. So it was given to Slim Pickens, and actually, Slim Pickens is my favorite part of the movie. He is an American original, and when he rides that bomb into its final destination at the end, waving his hat in the air like a real cowboy, that is one of the most indelible scenes in cinema history. So to wrap things up, the reason why we do Just Seen It every week is we try to hold ourselves to the standard that were set by Siskel and Ebert. They had a real impact on us and how we view cinema, and we will miss them both dearly. Let's raise a glass to them. To Roger and Gene.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. On our next episode, take a break from the summer heat and join us as we review the final episodes of Breaking Bad. Then, we revisit the X-Men franchise with a look at the Wolverine, and we review another summer action thriller, Two Guns. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.
Today, my boss made fun of me in front of this incredibly hot college guy. Shocker. Shut the front door, Amber. Shut the back door.
Not the back door.
What?
There's doors we don't do.
George.
Pass the potatoes, please.
Support for Just Seen It comes from Warner Archive Instant. Streaming hard-to-find movies and TV shows direct from the studio at WarnerArchiveInstant.com.